here we go. It's Benjamin. Welcome. Welcome, man. We're so glad to have you.
Well, thanks for reaching out, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I was talking before the show, I was kind of going over that I've been following you since the Evergreen saga. Do you want to get into that a little bit and just kind of tell everybody, walk us through that and what led you to start making YouTube videos covering Evergreen?
Hmm. What's basically the theme of your show, just so I know how to tailor the.
Yeah. So, the theme of our show is basically just how these issues, well, all issues, but we do delve a lot into the culture war stuff, affects small town America.
Mm, yeah.
So we live in a small town that's got a population of what?
2,500 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but uniquely last year, I feel like when we started this thing, we had a particularly contentious local election.
Yeah.
And I think for the first time here in, rural Appalachia, you saw the divisiveness and all this culture war stuff. A lot of it start to seep into our little small town, which we thought was quite remarkable, honestly.
Along what vector would it be? Race, probably, rather than gender.
Both. Both race and gender. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a kind of an outside group of real estate tycoons.
It's like the beginning of like a anti-woke Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
Flick, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, their strategy was to find three local women in particular. As you can imagine, there are women in local politics here, but not a lot. But that was their strategy, and then try to kind of take that, and any backlash or criticism that they got was kind of framed as a gender criticism,
Okay. Yeah. Did they win?
No, they did
No.
not.
They did not.
Okay. Yeah.
They did not.
Interesting.
But it was really the first time I think we've kind of seen that, in particular, just the divisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, vitriolic divisiveness, I would say, come to our town.
Yeah. Okay. So any form of disagreement was framed as a form of sexism, racism, bigotry,
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, rather than addressing the substance,
Exactly.
everything was identity, everything was politics, and
Identity
everything
politics. That's all.
zero
they did.
sum.
Yep. Right.
Okay.
And it was definitely, social media was a big aspect of it, too. It was, there was a large social media component where they gathered a large following and then used that to, kind of go after.
Degrade.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was that so I guess they switched the frame to be bigger than just the small town. On social media, did they make it like a state issue or like something broader? They brought in a lot of people who are foreigners, so to speak.
Yeah.
so-
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
For
that
sure, a lot of
that
outside
plus
people.
just it was for everything was framed in, oh well, this is just the entrenched politics that are here and they
Yeah.
don't want change and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing.
This is the first time I've seen social justice brought up in a local election here. Like it was,
Okay.
100%.
wild.
Huh.
Wild.
Is it okay? I should explain Evergreen, but what's your guys'
Yeah.
take on that Richmond, north of Richmond thing?
Yeah.
That big.
So,
Because
Oliver Anthony.
was it like trying to speak to you guys, but like not, or what?
Well, so what's funny about Oliver Anthony's, he actually worked like 20 minutes from my house
Okay.
back
Yeah,
in
he
the
has
day.
relatives that live
He
here.
has relatives that live
It's actually kind of from here in a way.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, that does speak a lot to the people here.
Okay.
It really does.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His message is very it resonates with the majority of folks here.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess similarities between what you're just briefly describing
Mhm.
and what happened at the Evergreen State College
Mhm.
are there some vectors, like certain things rhyme. It
Mhm.
was rather Olympia's kind of relatively a small town compared to Seattle. This is in Washington. It's the capital town. And it borders a lot of farmland and a lot of kind of rural stuff.
Mhm.
So it was this little kind of hyper progressive bubble
Yeah.
surrounded by a bunch of, farm workers and just normal folk doing normal thing. And it kind of got to be known as the super hippy dippy place, full of homos and,
Sure.
like all those radical activists and stuff. And
Mhm.
they would, every once in a while, there'd be some sort of controversy where the students would revolt. So it was never, so it always kind of had the pedigree of being this
Sure.
kind of really weird mottled sheep, kind of grungy and stuff like that. And what happened at that college is that they took a lot of that social justice politic, which I think we're calling it woke right now, but it's just
Yeah.
a certain
Yeah.
vector of identity politic,
Sure.
oppressor and oppressed. You have to judge everybody by the color of their skin or their height, or
Mhm.
like what dangles or
Yeah.
doesn't dangle between their legs, or
Yeah.
what they wish wouldn't dangle between their legs, or whatever,
Yeah.
So what happened was that the students agitated in the spring, actually almost 7 years ago now, come May 23rd, the students agitated because there was just a dust up between one student who was a so-called minority, like a
Mhm.
Puerto Rican Native American kid, got into a row with a couple of black kids because he was basically, he made this contentious Facebook post where he said that where the black students wanted to have a black only
Mhm.
workshop, and so he just swapped out the word black for white, and he changed the modifiers, and everybody got really mad because it was white supremacist for a
Sure.
whites only thing, but a black
Sure.
only thing is like what
Perfectly
needs to
fine.
happen. And then there was like the police were called in because
Mhm.
threats were made, and then the black students made this story that they had been detained and not allowed to leave, and it was a total lie. And then they
Yeah.
agitated to make this whole week-long protest, and they decided to live stream the whole thing, and they just went off the rails. A lot of the
Mhm.
energy there was that these students had been brought to college and they were not college ready. A lot of them were failing, and
Mm.
they had been, instead of taught how to read and write and think critically, they were taught a bunch of this social justice stuff where all of their failures were due to this system of
Mhm.
white supremacy or whatever.
Mhm.
And the administration and the teachers taught them that, and then they took that revolutionary spirit and they aimed it back at the people who taught them that. And there was this week of just absolute insane behavior on behalf of the students. It's probably my documentary, it's about 8 hours long. It's 24
Mhm.
episodes. It's all just the live footage, and I try to arrange it in a way so you kind of understand what's happening on the ground and then what's informing what's happening on the ground. um it's unbelievable just how cringy they
It
were
is.
behaving.
It
So
was so
anybody who
bad.
is lacking cringe in their life, definitely go check out, because it's just like it's bottomless and you
Yeah.
don't understand what's going on. So that when that happened, a lot of hay was made on the internet about it, because it was the era on YouTube of SJW cringe compilations. This
Sure.
was right
Sure.
around Trump had just gotten to office, which was another
Mhm.
vector of pressure on the Progressive Project. And, Gamergate kind of crested and fallen off. I don't know if you guys know what Gamergate is. We don't
Yep.
have to get
Sure.
into that, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of just kind of feminist versus the manosphere kind of stuff going back
Mhm.
and forth. And so Evergreen just handed a lot of these content creators just this superbly cringy content, which is what they made their livelihoods showcasing.
Mhm.
But nobody really understood that this wasn't just a bunch of college activists acting crazy.
Right.
This was systemic. This
Sure.
was systemic to the entire institution. So what I did was, because I had been there, I was going there, I was involved in producing a lot of these workshops, because while I was studying there, I was also, working in the media department. So I had access to all the workshops, the lectures, and like
Mm.
where they were programming these
Mhm.
students. So I wanted to fill out the story and make it not just, this isn't just cringe. This is actually the end game of all of this social justice stuff. And lo and behold, 3 years later, the summer of Floyd happens, and
Yeah.
it's the exact
Mm.
same thing on a national and even global
Sure.
scale. The exact same behavior was happening just in that little tiny
The summer of
progressive
love.
college town. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And that's it was I didn't think it would spread so quick. I really didn't. It really
Well,
went critical mass like in no time.
Well, you know what? It was already there latently. And if you go back, once I saw what happened at Evergreen, I started saying, especially with the Trump election, the way that the media behaved was that they were agitating for revolution. What happened with Nick
Sure.
Sandman, that MAGA cap
Sure.
wearing
Yeah.
kid,
Yeah.
taken out of context, the same time that happened, that
Right.
Juicy Smollier thing
Mhm.
happened, where that actor is like, "This is MAGA country." And if anybody hasn't
Yep.
seen that, Fox interviewed the two guys who mugged him, and it's so
It's
hilarious.
hilarious.
It's so good.
Have
It's
you
so
seen it,
good.
Chase?
No, I haven't seen that.
So are you familiar with Jesse Smollett?
Oh
What
yeah,
happened?
100%, yeah.
What about the Nick Sandman?
Not as familiar with that.
Okay, yeah. So, they were at the Capitol. Is that right, Ben? You
Oh,
go
were
by
they at the
Benjamin or
Capitol?
Ben?
Yeah, Benjamin's cool,
Okay,
but
Benjamin, yeah.
you guys are cool enough. You can just call me Ben. Are you
Thanks.
Joshua or Josh? 'Cause I
Josh.
see Joshua.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
right.
my brother's name is Ben, so Ben just instinctively comes out. But
Yeah, when you say Ben, it sounds right. Sometimes
Okay.
it doesn't sound right. People call me Ben. So
I hear you.
So was it at the Capitol? I don't remember.
I actually think it was.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was. Yeah.
So it was a group of high schoolers that were on a field trip, and this kid.
Oh, is this with the
MAGA
Native
hat?
American guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm familiar with this. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
I got
drum
you.
had like got right in his face, and the kid's just like just kind of smiled, and he was smiling with privilege, and we don't do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, you do not smile smugly with privilege at all. But you see, once what happened at Evergreen happened, and again, Gamergate was another sandbox where, just briefly, there's this thing called video games, and it's like a $2 billion industry, and it's just a bunch of people like just spending their time playing video games, and you know, it's several decades old, so you have people like generational. There's like this culture there. In 2010, 2011, 2012, the feminists saw a bunch of power to be made by calling everybody sexist.
Sure.
And there was a lot of and the media went along with it. The gaming media went along with it, because the gaming media is a bunch of nepotistic. Everybody knows everybody's literally getting everybody off. There's
Right.
this polyamorous swamp. And what you see is this intrusion of ideology into a non-ideological. Everything is political. Everything is
yeah.
politicized.
Yeah.
And then when people resist against that, what you do is you call everybody bigots, and then you get the low information people saying, "Oh no, look at all these white supremacist men's rights activists being really mean to women," when it's actually the women agitating that reaction. And so what you saw, I just wanted to kind of push against that. It came from everywhere. It just spread everywhere. It was already happening.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
leading up to Floyd, I remember specifically, I saw the same thing that happened at Evergreen. At Evergreen, those activist students and the activist teachers were always looking for something to be really offended about. They're always looking for something to really mobilize themselves. And like 10 days or a week before Floyd happened, there's this weird kind of incident where this lady's walking a dog in her park, and this black guy starts filming her being racist, but it turns out she wasn't. He was agitating her, and the media jumped on that and tried to say, "Look, we're so racist. Everybody's so racist. We're going to do this thing." And then they had the Floyd, which was perfect, because you have this guy, Derek Chauvin. I'm not going to come down one way or another on his behavior or what actually happened, but the image of that guy with this cold stare leaning on this other guy, this black guy, just allows you to completely ignore what's going on and just see this as the exemplification of America's racist imminent threat. And one more thing, it was just so hilarious to me that the United States government in 2020 organized a massive dismantling of civil rights.
Yeah.
And then they agitated for this massive protest against state overreach. And so the same people who were wearing masks, the same people who gave up all of their freedoms, then were going after the state at the state's whim to protest state overreach.
Wow. I've never seen or heard it framed like that, but you're absolutely right. That's incredible.
So what happened at Evergreen? What happened at Evergreen, when you look through what happened, the student protests, they get to get their little social justice degrees. They get to get off on being righteous, on changing history.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But and the administration loses a lot of credibility because they end up looking like fools, and they
Oh, yeah.
totally end up looking like fools. But what happens is that the administration, the state, promises all these activists power, and that power comes by more state power. The state now gets to look through your emails. It gets to call you into these little struggle sessions because you said something offensive. So it always works in accordance with tightening power. It always, and that's why it's in corporations, because it allows HR department to really monitor everybody, make sure that everybody is a completely pliable unit of the system. And it's very communist too, because there's centralized power. There's no individuality. Everything is just brought down to this really low, chunky, just follow orders kind of stuff. And then there's those useful idiots that are agitating for it that will be the first ones that are shoved out of the new utopia.
Oh yeah,
once
for
the
real.
state gets the power.
Yeah, the first ones against the wall.
Yeah,
always.
I got a question.
Yeah,
Benjamin, what led to you attending Evergreen in the first place?
Can I ask a counter question?
Sure.
I'll answer that. But what led to you not having a body? Are you disapparated? Are you an AI? Is there a?
Do I not have a body?
No, I don't see you. You're not
really?
on the screen.
Oh, Chase isn't on the screen. Okay.
Oh, okay. So this isn't like some sort of
No.
computer generated avatar that you have.
No.
Weird.
No, I'm a real person, believe it or not.
Okay. All right. Cool.
In the flesh.
Cool. All right. So no.
So in our defense, this is the first, like, we've been testing out Streamlabs and the remote stuff. So this is the first actual. Well, we did a little live stream where Chase and I, just the two of us, just to test everything out on Facebook and YouTube and see how it goes. So that way, when we had someone like you booked who was a remote guest, we wouldn't be like scrambling around trying to fix audio issues or video issues.
Yeah.
And God knows we had a shit ton of both of them. So
I'm always worried when I plug into these things. Is my audio going to work? Is my video going to work? But
Oh, you look and sound great, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there we go. All right. Thank you. Why did I get to Evergreen? So I really just wanted to write novels when I, was a young man. And so I just spent time writing, and I worked odd jobs, and I ended up working a lot in preschool and just in childcare. Because one way or another is just, I'm good with kids, and there's a lot of creativity there, and there's a low load, there's a low cognitive load. So I can spend most of my brain power writing these big old books that I wanted to write, and then I just hang out with kids and stuff like that. But when I got in my mid 30s, I just felt like I was totally tired of dealing with 4-year-olds. I was just done with it. And
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and I'd written all this stuff, but I was just nowhere. I wanted the stamp of approval. Like, I went to college to get my degree because I believed that these institutions, even though like I stayed out of them because I thought it's just a bunch of bullshit, I'm like, you know what? Maybe they'll connect me. Maybe I'll be legitimized as an artist or as a writer, as an intelligent person or whatever. I wanted legitimization. And so, ironically, I spent like 15 years of my adult life teaching children to be adults. And then I get to college and I watched all these professors teaching adults to act like children.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? I was really mad how they were acting. Everybody, especially the administration.
Sure.
So I went there and I just worked my ass off. Evergreen is kind of loosey-goosey. It's a lot of independent work. So I just got 4.5 years to basically just hole up and read and write and read and write and read and write and read and write and read and write. And then I just watched the college campus stuff go on because I thought it was silly. I walked onto campus my first week there was this big sign like, liberate, nobody wins under patriarchy. And at that point in 2013, that was such a like 90s phrase. I'm like, what are we in 1996? Now you can see that again, but I'm like, this is like so crusty, like this is like all this politically correct culture. I thought we were over this. This is like little power games by petulant idiots, midwit, mostly females and beta males, basically.
Right.
I can relate to that, honestly. I went to the University of North Carolina, Asheville. which Asheville, I don't know if you're familiar with Asheville, North Carolina. It's very your quintessential blue town in a red state.
Okay. I would argue that it is our like hyper progressive little bubble.
Oh yeah,
Asheville is
hyper progressive. So a lot of left wing politics, and I felt quite the same way about there. I quickly became very disillusioned.
What did you study?
I was going to school for meteorology, actually. But being that it was a liberal arts college, I had a healthy dose of philosophy and all the good stuff. And I remember that was right around the time when the gay marriage issue was coming up. And quite honestly, I tried to write an intellectual paper, and my argument was simply that homosexual people already have the same rights as everybody else, including the right to marry a person of the opposite sex. So what you're asking for is a special right, technically.
A privilege.
Was not well received, and I quickly became the pariah. And that led, that's basically the reason I left, to be honest with you, just because I was under the impression, this is in 2005. So I was under the impression that the Institute of Higher Learning of any sort was a place where ideas were debated and talked about.
The cream rises to the top.
Right. And it quickly became very apparent that was not the case.
Yeah.
So.
No. Yeah. It's that's really interesting. Do you guys know Curtis Yarvin? Have you guys listened to or read him at all? He's kind of an interesting guy. Mm-hmm. He was writing about stuff in, I guess, 2007 leading up. He started a blog called Unqualified Reservations under the pen name Mitch's Molebug. And if you have a chance, there's some good audiobooks on YouTube. One would be How Dawkins Got Pwned and An Open Letter to Open-Minded Progressives. Okay. And just those two blog series in 2007, 2008, 2009, when he was writing them, forsaged the entire situation that we're seeing now.
Wow.
And I just want to bring that up because one thing that he writes that always stuck with me is that, the progressive project thinks that we can solve everything by knowledge, by the smartest person in the room, by the expert. But the problem is that power corrupts. Absolutely.
Yes.
And the metaphor that he uses that I think is really salient because power corrupts it's almost a cliche. So we don't really think through it is that say you have a cask of wine and wine is knowledge and you put 1 cup of sewage into the wine and you have what? You have sewage.
You have sewage. Yeah.
No okay. And so now take a cask of sewage and put 1 cup of wine into the cask of sewage. What do you have?
You still have sewage.
You have sewage. So power is the sewage and wine, you can't mix those two things. And so when you get to college and you write your paper trying to bring out nuance about gay marriage or trans rights, whatever it is, feminists, maybe the James Damore paper, when Google was having a bunch of stuff and they're like, okay, we want you guys to think through these issues about why there's no females or why we're having such a hard time having female engineers. And James Damore, autistic idiot that he is, goes and he does the paper and he says, well, look, females don't want to do this. They're not predisposed to do this. And that is seen as sexist
100%.
Because it's not about the truth. It's about power.
Yep.
Women, the people that drove him out didn't care why women aren't there. They want women there because women want to be in those positions, but they don't want to do the work. They want the title. They want the power, or at least those women, not women totally, but the women there. And then those processes of getting women into power. Are about that. So that's when we say, the institution of higher learning should be about higher learning, and it's not. It is disappointing. It's a big wake-up call, but it's actually obvious that it's about power. And so power is going to corrupt. And it's also about the lack of a theocratic strain within the institutions. This is the other investigation that I'm on.
Yeah.
Is that to what degree is this liberal project of open debate, of meritocracy, of you do you, I do me, and we'll hash out our differences. Why is it descended into this absolute shit flinging power play? You're like, well, one thing that liberalism lacks is a positive moral framework other than rationality. But rationality always follows belief. Rationality,
Right.
the brain works by having an intuition and then finding reasons for it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already a feeling. And what religion did, what theocracy did, was was to give an explicit code of ethic and a story and a narrative that bound everybody together. And that's absolutely just as susceptible to human corruption
Sure.
as what we're seeing now. But right now we have all the fundamentalism and none of the actual theological thought through this based on like this positive moral framework where there is forgiveness, where there is redemption, where sin has a place, but renewal also has a place. All we have is the sin. And that's why I saw it Evergreen. That's why my first video was like, listen, this is a broken religion. You have all of the fall and none of the redemption, except for this really weird, I'm going to give you my guilt and shame and you're going to use it against me. And I'm just going to prostrate myself before power because there's nothing else but power.
Right.
So that's the other question. To what degree is the missing positive theology to blame for this? And how do we get that back? I don't know.
That's a good question. And, you know, I know that theology and religion in the West is on decline anyway. So when those belief structures are absent, it creates a vacuum, and it's going to be filled with something. Yeah. And I've said for a long time, and I know you have too, because I've watched your stuff. This operates exactly. Well, it operates like a cult more than a religion, but it absolutely fills that void. It fills that vacuum.
Meaning,
social justice.
Yeah.
Fills that vacuum. When you see people like our society as a whole in the West is more atheistic, I guess, than previous. So when people leave their framework of whatever religion that they were brought up to, that creates a vacuum for because we need some kind of I don't know why, but humans need some kind of moral framework. We need that, and we seek almost a spirituality. We seek something that's bigger than ourselves, and I guess that's where a lot of this stuff, because it doesn't. You see how it operates now, especially when you get into like the trans issues and the gender stuff. I mean, it operates just like a cult.
Well, you know, in the framework that your show is set in, with a small community being, or I guess you guys were responding to, or whatever, to this incident where a small community was played against itself for power.
Very much so.
100%.
For a broader thing. So it's not just about the grand narrative, like America should be a Christian nation or not. It's that you guys, your town had these, you know, ancestral bonds, these relational bonds. You had something bigger than yourselves because you all operated and interacted with each other over time. And then everybody knows everybody else and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's an inbreeding joke that I'm not going to make, but I have to bring it up.
Go for it. I don't care. Like
Anyways, it's really tight knit, okay?
Dude, you'll hear the fucking banjos over here, Benjamin. Let me tell you.
Hey, I don't have a banjo here. I have a mandolin, but I don't have
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow. I'd like to hear that sometime.
No, you wouldn't. I'm terrible.
It was, sorry for the aside, but
no,
it's
fine.
It's not just about this lack of like a transcendental meaning. I think the transcendental meaning is really important, but it's also in the modern world, these globalist worlds, this corpus world, like everybody can just be swapped out by anybody else, and there's no patience for that human. There's no, like, we don't have to deal with anybody. We can just move, or we can just, you know, like hire somebody else to do all the work for us, you know, in a way. And so we're insulated. And so it's not just about the lack of meaning that theology and religion serves. It's also a lack of long-standing community. It's a lack of connection to a past and a future, and then to a tight-knit, everybody's together from the past, from the future right now. So that's something that when I talk about the solutions to the problem, a lot of people keep on saying, a lot of these thinkers that are critiquing this stuff keep on saying small community, small intentional community, small, like go to church. And it's not just about the belief, it's about that connection. It's about the relationships. Those matter more. And so
100%.
it sounds like your town was trying to be hijacked by a false relationship,
100%.
100%
bigotry,
man.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Rather than familiarity.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's also perpetuated by the fact that even there's a lot of people that have strong opinions online that I would say would consider themselves, or they don't readily make themselves a part of the community. And those were some of the loudest voices that were on there. And so it was almost as if, I think there were a lot of, they would term it, oh, well, this is ingrained families that have, done politics.
Yeah.
Well,
Of course.
of course, everybody here is related to one another. Number one,
Yeah.
like in some distant
so
form.
hard to
I
date
mean,
here.
yeah, I mean it's crazy. Well, you're either related or you're distantly, tied
Yeah.
up together in some business aspect, or you're
Yeah.
tied up together. And quite honestly,
Yeah.
there's like probably 6 families that really interest themselves in local politics, and those are the families that you have. There's never
Yeah.
really been any major pushback against that, and then all of a sudden you have somebody come in and start pointing out these issues that, sure, I mean, that are they truths? Yeah, I think they probably are, most of them. But to blame all the problems on that,
Yeah.
meanwhile offering no solutions and no
No.
real
Well, their solution was them in power.
Right.
That was their solution.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
exactly
Them
what I was
having
going.
the power.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is a bit of history of your guys' place and time? Was it what kind of industry
Yeah.
has it had and then changes over time?
So, man, going back to the, I'm 38, so as far as I can remember, going back, we had a lot of furniture plants here. We had a lot of, we had some textile. So
Where would the materials come from? Like rather local, like the wood would come down the road,
yeah,
Most of it did. It was a
and then the
you know,
cotton too.
Yeah, Well, we're in the mountains of North Carolina, so it was a little
Okay.
different here. A lot of, and it's also different culturally, I would say too, because a lot of the people that ended up finding themselves here, I would say people really just didn't. They just wanted to be left alone, really.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay.
but as far as within our lifetime, I think it was a lot. We were, really affected by NAFTA and CAFTA, which we've talked about ad nauseum.
Oh, really?
here.
Okay.
I mean, we
Yeah.
we do this podcast within spitting distance of an abandoned giant Lexington furniture plant.
yeah.
And
Okay.
so, we were wrapped up in the Rust Belt evacuation that happened with NAFTA and CAFTA in the 90s very heavily. And then our claim to fame, and really the one persistent industry that's been here since way before hundreds and hundreds of years, is mining. The purest quartz in the world comes from right here where we are.
Oh, really?
And so without the Spruce Pine mining district here, then basically the entire semiconductor industry shutters.
Shuts down.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's still thriving. That's alive. and thriving.
100%.
That's
yeah.
actually
Oh,
what
wow,
I do.
okay.
I work for one of the mining companies.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like one of those coal towns that kind of got completely
No.
decimated once they moved on.
No, and I would argue honestly, there's been we've received some national and international attention lately because UK Daily Mail and a couple other bigger publications picked up a story that I think was a result of one of the mining companies, Sibelco in particular, announced like a $700 million expansion here to service, in particular the push for making semiconductor chips in the United States rather than overseas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we've received, quite a bit of international attention just very recently, actually, over that, and our town has come back on the map again.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I would say
So,
that we're on the
Was that
upswing.
connected to that like weird kind of like coup that was attempted?
No,
Or was that before?
the mining stuff wasn't. It really wasn't.
I think it is maybe in the sense that, Asheville, like a lot of other, far blue, heavy blue cities, has seen an evacuation as of late,
Into
and a
rural
lot
areas.
of that clientele that would typically go to Asheville has either been priced out of Asheville, or is looking just to be within distance of it. And so the town that's a little bit closer to Asheville from us has seen a big growth recently because of that. And I think people sense that this town is getting ready to get the gentrification, like a lot of other towns, a lot of other small mountain towns are here. So
okay.
we
It's
got
probably really beautiful.
It is. It's pretty here. It's a gorgeous place to live. It really is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, you can hear our we don't speak English here. We speak cornbread.
Yeah.
Like
That's why.
Speak liver mush, Josh.
That's why I don't mind when you call me Ben, because you go
Ben.
which is nice. It's got this little end in it. I favor.
Yeah. We speak
cool.
cornbread liver mush here.
But I think there's just to wrap up my answer to your question, I think there's definitely a sense that gentrification is coming here, and there's a lot of vying economic interests. Number one, and I think in one way or the other, the whole semiconductor quartz manufacturing, high purity quartz thing is wrapped up also in that.
Yeah. Okay. So, weird, crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good for the future for you guys and your family,
For sure.
As long as you can shore it up and you don't get overrun by corporate interests.
Well, I won't say anything because I like my job. Well, the mining industry as a whole, I think is heading that direction. Unfortunately, there's two mining companies here that mine out of the same mountain. Basically, they mine the same mines. It's just split. One company leases half of it from the family who owns the mountain, and the other company owns part of it and leases the other part of it. And man, that family's made a fucking shit ton of money.
Imagine owning that mountain.
God almighty, right? That would be insane. But just to kind of bring things back here, so when have you seen? Let me. Sorry, I just had a brain fart.
No,
I'm coming off of SSRIs, so man, I've had awful brain zaps. Yeah, I've weaned myself down to the tiniest, minute little dose, and I stopped it 4 days ago. Oh man, a whole slew of side effects. I've been on them since 2018. Yeah, I've been on them since 2018. Yeah. I had a stage 3 cancer diagnosis, and then I had a near-death experience, and a lot of big emotions were coming up, and from that, so and anxiety. So my primary care put me on them, and
you're ready to deal with that emotion.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready to feel emotions again. Like we actually talked about this on the podcast a couple of days ago, because I'm pretty open about what I'm going through, what I go through on a daily basis here. I live most of my life on the internet, unfortunately. That's probably not a good thing, but at least I recognize it.
Tell me about it.
Right. But yeah, I haven't felt an emotion since 2018. Period. Like full stop. Like my grandmother passed away. I was sad and I wanted to feel sad, but I couldn't. I was in a long-term relationship and it ended. Same thing. Like I wanted to feel sad. I was sad, but I couldn't feel it. And that was really I was like, okay, so this is obviously not a good thing for me if I'm, not able to even feel what I should. So
yeah, you got to be human. Sucks though that might be.
For real.
Yeah.
We do have to be human. And SSRIs are great for, 6 months tops. And after that,
getting through the threading the needle.
Yeah. So yeah, the brain zaps have been really bad. And it's just like a electrical pulse in your head, and it completely disorients you and just like kind of resets your brain.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you guys are probably tired of talking about this, but do you know about quartz? Why is there quartz there? What is quartz? Why is it there? Do you guys know?
Yeah.
Oh, we can give you the whole rundown, Benjamin.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit.
So one of our very first podcast that we did was with a guy that knows all about it. So we learned all about it. So
cool.
It's called the spruce pine pegmatite. It was an ejection that happened like 400 million years ago of
is it silica or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silica.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's just pressurized in a way.
Yeah.
yeah, and it was an injection up through the crust into this area, and it was discovered back. I mean, there's even records of Native Americans, mining this stuff. In particular, I think, what the Native Americans, what it started as was mica, which was used, as still used in cosmetics and things like that. And then
Jewelry,
in the 50s and stuff, it was used for, small cogs and machinery and things like that. But that eventually, feldspar is also found in that, which goes to make ceramics. So there's a nice byproduct because the quartz and the mica are both found encased in that.
They are. And what's funny is the quartz was initially the byproduct of the feldspar production to make ceramics,
Toilets,
sinks, all that stuff. And then once there became a huge demand for this high purity quartz, which it's like super low aluminum, super low iron, silica, and they use it in semiconductor
for insulation or for conduction. Not to get technical.
No, you're fine. They so they make crucibles that actually mold the chips.
Oh, so
out of the quartz.
So it can be very finely milled.
Yeah.
To pour those transistors or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Chips. And it's got a lot of other uses too. The high purity quartz stuff. So they make fiber optics with it, fiber optic cable,
solar panels.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
But then there's different grades of it too, aren't there? So the lowest quartz sand is actually what you see at the Masters. Actually, right now, those white sand traps
came from here.
That's called Savannah sand, and that is actually not sand at all. It's quartz ground up.
Oh, okay.
That's the lowest purity form of it, and then there's other purities in between there, not other than the high purity stuff, isn't there, Josh?
So I mean, that industry has got quite a lot of life.
Every electronic device on Earth has either sand in it from spruce pine, or sand from spruce pine was used in the production of that electronic device.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
What we've been told is literally the semiconductor industry would not exist if it wasn't for spruce pine quartz. Period.
That's crazy.
Full stop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. If you look at the U.S. economy, I don't know if you guys know what's his name, Zihan. Can't remember his first name. He's like kind of a neoliberal, like everything's gonna be fine, everybody's fucked except for America because we can completely re-import all of our economic goods and we're totally fine, kind of stuff, But like if China and us fall apart, and Russia or whatever falls apart, we can bring everything back to the United States. And I guess you guys hinted that they're ramping that back up.
Yeah, they are. Well, you saw, I think it was Samsung spent bukus of money on a plant I think they're building in Texas. Is that right?
I think it is, yes.
For a semiconductor plant.
So I think that was a result, after COVID, when there was all that chip shortage, and you had literally GM had vehicle parking lots and parking lots and parking lots of vehicles sitting there with no chips to go in them. There was a push by I believe it was early in the Biden administration, to bring a lot of that manufacturing home, and so I think that's a lot of what you're seeing, the ramp up in it. I think it was coming anyway, quite honestly, but I think it's a good thing that at least we're pushing to make it domestically.
Well, that it brings it back to the nominal topic of the conversation. This DEI stuff, this woke stuff, the social justice stuff cannot exist in harmony or beneficial for everybody with the amount of work that we need to do in order to have a functioning, healthy, prosperous society. And it's a complete cancer on almost all of our institutions now, including the Biden administration. Sorry to get political here.
Oh, no, go for it, man. We're all about it. We're all about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, meritocracy, hard work, and then also community values, also a sense of national pride of some sort or other, and then also figuring out how to be a multi-ethnic society in harmony without this kind of pointing fingers, without kind of dredging up the worst parts of our history, without like kind of playing all this power politics stuff. I don't know how it happens outside of like a major collapse, like a major catastrophe where we have to get along, where we have to stop mutilating our children's genitals to survive, like that's the only time that we're gonna get to that.
Well, I think we saw that for a brief moment when COVID first came on the scene. I think we saw that for a brief moment because everyone in the world was kind of like, "Oh shit!" Like this, we may have like a real pandemic here, and all of the social justice stuff, all of that went quiet, or at least wasn't as loud for a minute. From where I was. I don't know. I wasn't on Twitter. I do have a Twitter. That's how you and I, or X. That's how you and I have communicated. But I'm very rarely on X, man. It is, oh boy, is it a dumpster fire. And
Is that good for your blood pressure? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not good. It's not good for my mental state.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It is awful. It is.
If you want to feel things being outrage, then go ahead, get off SSRIs and jump on
Twitter.
Yeah. Boy, are you right. That it is insane.
How were you guys affected by the lockdowns? Like, how tight was your town, your county, and then your state?
Not so. Town not so bad. County not so bad. It was a. I mean, you had two factions. You had Team A that was driving around in their cars by themselves with their masks on, and then Team B was just like, no, ain't no government gonna tell us we can't go outside, you know, and that was the two, that was the dichotomy there. So,
I would say the don't tell me what to do was more prevalent here.
It was,
for sure.
It was.
You know, a lot of North Carolina as a state. You know, our governor freaked out about it, of course, and tried to lock it down. Largely, everybody here was like, "Yeah, fuck that. We're not. We're just gonna go." But we're far enough away to where you can kind of hide. You know. It's literally the spirit of these mountains, I think, is you hide here, you know?
Well, you know what? I'm shamefully poor in my history knowledge. So where was North Carolina in the Civil War? Like which faction was it going for?
It was a Civil War state, or Confederate state.
It was a Confederate state,
so it's, and like just north of you, is that where the line was drawn, or were you guys contested territory?
No, it was Richmond, Virginia.
I'm sure that informs your culture a lot.
Oh, sure. So if I'm not mistaken, it was I've always heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, that Mitchell County was like northern sympathizing.
Well,
maybe?
remember we asked Michael Hardy this. He was the historian guy that we had on, and his take on it was that, in particular the southern Appalachian Mountains where we're located, and the Appalachians as a whole, the entire region, largely was settled by people that really didn't. Slavery was not a large issue to us.
We were too poor.
We were too poor to really care, to be quite honest. And
you guys are like the leave us the fuck alone and subsistence living.
And that's very, it wasn't until the turn of the century when you made the transition from subsistence farming to industrialization, I think really a lot of these people were really connected to anything nationally. And then not until Lyndon B. Johnson came and told everybody they were poor in the 70s, nobody actually knew they were poor. And so... yeah, that's basically the way it happened.
Wait, what's this like? Why would he call you guys poor or tell you guys you're poor in order to vote for him? Of course, but like,
they came through here in the 70s, and literally the government came through and signed everybody here up for food stamps and government benefits and everything. Literally happened like that.
Yeah,
they just bought your vote.
Yes,
absolutely,
100%,
absolutely.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a big push during the Great Society for that.
Okay. Why do you think that it was your region that was given that? Probably some sort of electoral college bullshit where they're just trying to lock up a district, but it's
I think there was already a lot of Kennedy Democrats, in this area too, and so I think that it was a ploy to kind of maintain that because I think they saw everybody kind of going right wing, But I mean, still, this is a largely right wing area for sure.
Well, I would argue back in the 70s that it was probably largely Democrat because
you had it was your Strom Thurmond Democrats, your old Kennedy Democrats, things like that. So I mean, my grandmother, good Lord, she still will not hear anything. Right, she was a hardcore Obama, hardcore Biden, hardcore Hillary, but she doesn't understand it. the Democratic Party
Yeah.
left you behind,
A
honey.
long
You're
time
96.
ago, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
She wouldn't fit in
Where-
with the left now.
Where do you guys see your county or like your area, your region kind of heading? I guess you guys got that industry, so that's a card in your pocket.
We
right?
do.
You're
We
talking
do.
to the eternal optimist and the eternal pessimist over here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Josh.
good. Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
hear both sides. Yeah.
So that's a tough one. As far as the court stuff, we're fine. We're fine. We have that industry, and that's like our secret weapon, right? That if anything is going to carry us into the future, it's going to be that. What I worry about our town economically is every other industry. Like, man, we can't keep restaurants open here, and we've had some amazing restaurants. We can't keep restaurants open. I mean, small businesses just really, they come here to die.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
That's our.
So you guys
that's-
got like a Walmart and a couple
Yeah,
of
yeah,
pharmacies,
yeah.
basically. Yeah. Okay.
Walmart, we have $2 general stores. Yeah, that's the big box
You're
stores.
seeing what you're seeing right now is I mentioned the kind of the gentrification thing. We got our brewery a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
We now have a gastropub.
Yeah,
We now have a taco joint. You can get sushi downtown now.
that's true.
I mean, there are
That's true. That's true.
So you're beginning to see it, and it's trying desperately to happen. It's just that there's we also are affected, I would argue, largely by some of the stuff that I think was a Meanwell thing during the Trump administration. But they declared like 3,000 what they called opportunity zones around the country, and we're one of those where you can come and invest your money here. And I think it's if you, as long as you do something with it or sell it or develop it within 10 years, you do not have to pay capital gains tax.
Okay.
And so this was, I would argue, a large component of what happened last year
That
during
got
this
exploited.
election. It got exploited big because there's a group of outside real estate developers that have
yeah.
bought up. They have bought up some of these abandoned buildings in town, and basically they have no interest in selling them to anybody to be used for anything. They're just parking money there tax free, basically.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's another
Wow.
one of those
Yeah.
government meant well, government created
Yeah.
a shit
Yeah.
storm.
Government can't do a single thing that doesn't turn to shit.
It cannot.
They just
bro.
can't.
It really can.
Like, here you go. Here's some wine, and with the sewage back end, far back, whatever.
And that's, I've said it a million times on the podcast. I have this mantra that every institution in America is corrupt to its core. And I don't know. I was going somewhere with that. Damn
Well,
it.
that's kind of my argument. It's like these institutions, these systems, we can't trust them,
No.
but we can trust them to connect us to people that we can trust. Like I don't trust the internet, but I run my entire life through the internet by utilizing it to make connections, to be a human through it.
Right.
But it's not a human thing, and it's going to steal my humanity every chance it gets. But I'm still going to use it, like it's a deal with the devil, everything. So these institutions, and that's why, going back to solutions, it's kind of trying to see like a belief in America might work. It's kind of cheesy, maybe not, but like a belief in like the human component to this. Like we're going to use these systems that are going to try to, swindle us at every moment to connect us to humans, to be a good human. That's the optimistic take that I have, that is bundled with pessimism, because we live in a fallen world. By which I mean, like this is just Satan, just the means by which we're connecting right now. It's very shiny, very beautiful Satan. It's got really high quality, you've tuned it. We got a bunch of quartz and everything around here. It's all like saturated, but
Gosh, that's interesting. You're right, though.
It definitely is true. It's
Pull that microphone to you.
oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Well, I mean, you saw that. You saw that last year. It was, this largely, a lot of this pushback in the election came from, and I'm sure you probably have these types of things if you foray on Facebook in your area, but these Let's Talk pages. It's meant to be like a discussion, about
It's just a struggle session, though,
It
right?
is.
Oh my God, it is a absolute shithole.
I don't do that shit.
Cesspool.
Like, let's talk. And like, no, let's just let's talk at somebody. I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
that.
So what it became is, instead of let's talk, it's let's talk shit about everybody
Yeah.
and anybody that you disagree with and don't like, So again, I mean, Facebook, the old whites, especially the Appalachian old whites, love their Facebook, and it's great, connecting people and all that. But last year you saw it used to just about pull this town apart at the seams.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was
Have you guys
crazy.
like kind of done some community building or like healing? That's kind of cheesy word again.
Yeah.
Like around that, like, is there like some like kind of snapping back to like what makes your town your town?
That's a good question. Maybe a little. You might be starting to see some of that.
We had one of the opposing
no.
voices for a lot of this on here. It's actually a friend of ours.
Yeah.
And it devolved into a very heated discussion
Yeah.
a couple times in there. But I do think that it showed people that we could be civil with one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even
Heated but civil.
Yeah. And that was kind of our point in particular.
Small
my
town
point.
blood sports kind of stuff.
Yeah. Here on the podcast.
Oh, it was crazy, man.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason I say no, I was at first I was like, yeah, maybe, and then my mind goes back. So we recently had our own little George Floyd incident a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
here.
this is great.
Oh no. Oh no.
I'm going to run to the restroom.
Okay,
real quick.
sure.
You-
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
we'll break for just a minute.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are we pausing?
Yeah, we'll pause for just a minute.
Yeah.
You see-
Awesome.
Do you see two of us? I don't know what you see on your end.
You're
so-
both. Yeah. You're both named Josh McKinney, but it works, right?
But there's
Sweet.
two people, two separate not just a duplication of me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, God, we don't want another one of me in the world.
You're all right, Josh.
I'm okay, but
You're fine, Josh. You're
Well, yeah.
fine, man.
there is a little mini me running around in the world. He's I have a son. He's not a mini me anymore. He's 17. My God, where is he?
Oh wow.
Yeah, dude.
Amazing. Is
Where
he
is-
out down in is it Ashland? No, it's not Ashland. It's Asheville.
Asheville.
Yeah. Is he down there getting woke, doing some Antifa shit?
Yeah. He's doing the Antifa shit. He's getting his George Soros delivered bricks, so
Oh right.
so he
Look
can
at him.
smash the fash.
Right.
Yeah. No, he's a gamer. He's a gamer. That's all he does. He's actually with his mom right now. They're on a little road trip for the night. So
Oh, fun.
normally he produces and does all the computer stuff for me, and Chase and I just sit at the table. So I'm kind of playing producer tonight. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
multitask.
Yeah, I'm glad you can see us now. See us both. So now you can see who you're talking to.
So you want to tell them about our little George Floyd?
Yeah.
incident?
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And we're back. Okay, so and I'll preface this by saying that the person involved that wasn't the police officers was not black. He was white. So the TLDR is a guy was on his way back from the gym, started having.
So it's like a pink George Floyd.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Pink George Floyd, if you would. Pink Floyd.
That works on so many levels. I love that. That's great. That's great. So he's on his way back from the gym. He's a gym bro, and he's also a type 1 diabetic. And he starts. I guess he feels that his blood sugar is dropping, and he pulls into our local Walmart. And I guess allegedly he has some kind of diabetic episode. Walmart comes. He sits in his car for 45 minutes or
Yeah,
something.
and it's probably important to note it was in the grocery pickup area, so it was he
Yeah.
parked where the on
Staff are
pickup
in
for
and
the
out.
online is or whatever. So
Yeah, everybody parks there. It's not like legally enforced. You don't need like to have like a handicap sign. You're just like, I'm gonna
Right.
park
I
here.
think that was ultimately why Walmart called the cops to
Yeah.
begin with.
Oh,
He sat there for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean it's
Yeah.
several hours, like an hour or so.
And so they said they call the cops. I'm not sure if they called 911. I don't think they did, or if they called our communication center, or if they called the police department. I don't know who they called, but they sent police instead of instead of EMS. They sent police, and within 3 minutes of police getting there, and this guy is allegedly having a diabetic emergency. He's incoherent. From his story, from his side of the story, he's unresponsive and incoherent and doesn't know what's going on. They drag him out of the car and start just wailing on him,
Tasing him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they tased him 3 times. I mean, literally within 3 minutes of the cops showing up, he is drug out. And there's no body cam footage.
Huh.
Yeah, no body cam footage. So
That's sus.
Yeah, I thought so.
Even
too.
though we were supposed to have body cams, supposedly.
Yeah, this was our town. This wasn't the sheriff's. This was our town, Spruce Pine Police Department, that was involved in this. So all we have footage-wise is just the Walmart security camera footage, which was released to our local news organization, and we did get to see that. But it's so hard to tell what's going on once they get him down on the ground. But you can see the officers punching him, but you can't see what he's doing. So I don't know how he's fighting them. And I went through. EMS training, like I'm an EMT. I keep my certifications up, dude. If I rolled up on somebody that was unconscious or even
what was the term that they supposedly used, that his eyes were bugging out
and he was twitching
and
unresponsive?
Sounds a whole lot like a medical emergency to me, or
he's a tweaker.
Or he's a
tweaker. Yep.
But supposedly also this guy was a canine officer that was that at one point was a part of the sheriff's department or the police department. So
yeah,
what you would be led to believe is that the police officer should have known this guy and known that he wasn't a tweaker.
Mm-hmm.
But also, why did we not call an ambulance?
That's
I guess
my question.
Is what
That's
a lot of
my
people
question.
are asking. But of course, social media is burning down over this.
Yeah.
There's no nuanced conversation. Of course, it's just a bunch of people with close ties to the situation, literally screaming in each other's faces.
Well, is there two sides, or is there two competing narratives that people are championing?
So, yes, but they are completely incoherent. So you have Team A that is just fuck the police no matter what, and then Team B is support the police no matter what.
Blue line. Yeah.
That's
Back
it.
to blue.
That's the only two opinions in the discourse on this, and I'm like, what? What? But that's where we're at. I feel like as a nation, I don't think that you can have a nuanced opinion with anything.
Some flawed human beings made flawed decisions in the moment.
100%. Yeah.
Carried away.
Yeah.
No, Salt Tribe.
Yep. It is.
Is this so when did that happen, and what stage in the process are you guys at? Is there a police investigation, or the police roping it all off?
Well, the police are investigating themselves as they do.
Well, the SBI, State Bureau of Investigation,
is that like navel gazing or sniffing your own farts?
Nah, I think it's a little bit.
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. And look, I've said this a million times on here. I'm not anti-cop. I'm pro-freedom. That's my stance. And what that means is there's absolutely some institutional problems with policing that need to look. We need to look at very hard. But police are necessary. We have to have them. So, I just want to throw that out there.
How would you tell a diabetic from a tweaker?
How would
signs?
Yes.
You give him some orange juice?
Yeah, well, he went into the store to get some food, I guess to bring his blood glucose back up. So how I would tell a diabetic from a tweaker would be, tweakers look like tweakers. I hate to say that, but they do. Yeah. This dude is a very large, muscly paper boy, as Herbert the pervert would say. No, dude's a gym bro, right? He's not a tweaker.
Yeah,
he's a gym bro.
Yeah.
He's a gym bro. Yeah. He's in workout clothes. And here's the thing: even if it was a tweaker, I still would call EMS. I'm not going to drag a tweaker who's overdosing out of the car and beat their ass.
Well, that's been my contention. I said the other night, I'd like my toddler in the truck. He was completely fine, and
Come
called
back up
the.
here. Come back up
You
to
know.
the microphone.
Well, you know,
Sorry,
Come back up and
recording
tell
right
this
now.
story. Yeah.
I forget
yeah, well,
we have
one,
to
we're
eat these
recording, so be in the mic. And
Yeah.
second, we're recording, so be careful what you say you're doing to your toddler, because
things.
CPS is just...
No. I think we would. This was one of those.
We've already
deals.
discussed this on the podcast.
Yeah, we already discussed on the podcast, so it's already done. The damage is already done anyway. But it's one of those classic things where I accidentally locked the kid in the car. It was a work truck I was in, and
You didn't leave the car.
no, I didn't leave
Yeah.
the car. It was one of those where it was like, oh crap, I shut the door, and now I don't have the key to get back in. And so he's, of course, the truck's on, the heat's running. I called the cops and was like, hey, look, he's fine. If I could just get somebody to come and jimmy the car, it's fine. They sent. You would have thought the town was burning down and mad men were running around with guns because of the response. So,
But that's good. That's the response
That's
you want that's an appropriate
Yes.
response for a child trapped in the car. I
yes.
feel like.
But again, my point is that they'll send an ambulance for anything. Mm-hmm. They'll send an ambulance literally for anything. So why would you not send one in this situation?
I don't know. I don't.
Are
know.
there protests? Or you guys like, is there
No,
people like
no,
filling the streets?
It's all online.
Oh, it's social
all
media though.
Well, okay. Well, does everybody have like a pink square on their bio?
No, but I'm going to put one tonight.
We will make
Diabetic lives matter.
DLM.
Yeah, DLM.
DLM.
Why does the Spruce Pine Police hate diabetic people so
In
much?
this house, we believe insulin is a human right. You know. You guys
That's
could
where
make
it'll go
t-shirts. There's some money to be made here. You know.
Yeah, there is.
Sure.
Capitalize.
See, I like the way you think, right? That's what we need to start thinking is how we can
grift.
Yes,
Yeah, we
grift
gotta get the grift
at all times.
Yeah, we got to get the grift. We've been far too principled in our stance.
We definitely have, and I think we got to be more controversial.
We've been far too principled. We
Yeah.
just got to
More
follow
mean
the
tweets.
grift. Yeah,
More merch.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. So, all right, going back to national level stuff. Where do you think we're going with the? Where do you think that the election's going to take us?
The election?
Yeah, the
Like
the presidential
national?
election. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know, man. That stuff is so. You guys remember George Bush?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Senior or junior?
W.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, there's some buildings in this New York place. that got,
Right.
and then he's like, okay, well, God told me we're gonna go invade this other country. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why are we doing? What? Wait, that's not. Why are we doing that? Like, why are we doing that? And I remember in 2003, I was like, this is stupid. Like, we're going to Iraq because of this other thing. And then Afghanistan happened and stuff. It's like, okay, let's go and do this and do it terribly. Let's go
Sure.
police the world and fuck it up. Like, let's go and do that. And I remember that, oh gosh, I cringe at myself now, but like there was John Kerry went against George Bush, and I'm like, just get Bush out,
Swift
And
boat
I had-
Captain John Kerry.
I was in my pre-woke phase, I was living in Portland, Oregon, which was this dream place, I was like working, I was writing my novels and working preschool, and it was just this beautiful place. And I'm like, why are we messing with the world? Why are we not not doing that? And I had a lot riding on that election because I'm like, this is terrible. This is terrible. And then it went to George. It was this weird thing. We were watching. We had like a big house party. We watched the whole thing, and then like Kerry gave up, and George won because of Iowa. And I'm like, this is all rigged.
Yeah.
Like they're just like sucking my attention out of me, and it's going nowhere. Like I'm gonna either feel marginally okay or marginally bad, but it doesn't really actually affect me. And then when Trump got elected, because I was a Bernie bro.
Right.
I'm like, okay, Bernie, and I didn't know. This is before Evergreen. This is before I looked into the whole political, the process of how these institutions perpetuate themselves. I was like, Bernie is talking to the humans. He's talking to the people, the normal people.
Sure.
Let's be normal. Let's think about ourselves. And then Hillary came along and like completely trounced him, and it was super shady. I'm like,
Oh, dude, for real.
fuck
Yeah,
you.
it was bad.
Fuck you. And then I'm like, I'm stepping out of this, but fuck you. And when
Yeah.
Trump happened, I'm like, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
and it was a delicious moment. Like I got off on that election day. I watched the New York Times, like there was this chart, like Hillary's got like 98% success rate, and it just goes up, and I'm like laughing the whole time. I'm like, I was burning it all down at that point. But then that institution reacts to the fuck you, and it just makes life terrible. It makes life terrible for everybody, and it just programs everybody to just like destroy the country, and it just destroyed the country. And then Trump doesn't get elected. Asterisk, maybe not. Who knows? What are you allowed to say? And you're like, the system, and then like 3 months after that election, the Time magazine releases this article, like the inside coup.
I remember that.
Right. And they're just so proud. It's like, we rigged the election.
Yeah.
We rigged the election.
Yep.
And if you say otherwise, if you say we rigged the election and you're on the other side of the fence, we're going to jail you. So with regard to what's going to happen with Trump, I'm wondering if enough people are going to say, you know what, we don't want to live in a banana republic, and we're given a shit sandwich and a flaming, trash can of shit, like it's the shit sandwich question. But if Trump gets elected, they're not going to be able to break down as much. They're not going to manipulate people as far as they did to get Biden in office. And plus, if you look at the economics of the situation, and I'm not an expert at all, it looks like we're coming into some pretty bad times. And if they could pin it all on Trump, then they win. So they might kind of want Trump to get in there, and then the whole system crashes. They can blame it on him, and then the people who run the system get away. The Joker gets away again.
That's an interesting,
because if you look at the national debt, if you look at just a lot of the economic vectors, if you look at how we interacted with Russia when Russia invades Ukraine, we start to weaponize the US dollar, which makes a lot of people think, well, a lot of other countries think, like, we can't actually trust this because it's a political weapon.
Sure.
So once the world goes off the US dollar standard, our tremendous national debt does something. I don't know. It comes due. We forgive ourselves. I don't know what happens.
We investigate ourselves and find we did nothing wrong.
Yeah, we sniff our own farts, and then we just onshore all of the shit we offshored, right? I mean, we go through a tight... And it looks like our society needs a reckoning. If you look at, one of my big topics is not the race stuff, the SJW stuff, it's the gender stuff. And what's happening to your kids' generation, these 17-year-olds, they're cutting their dicks off.
As hell.
I know, dude.
Cutting their tits off.
I know.
And the medical establishment is egging them on to do it. And it's all about money, and it's all about a bunch of affluenza. It's just a bunch of people who have nothing better to do than to obsess about is to jerk off to online porn and then like problematize that part that they were overstimulating, because it doesn't serve like creating new life. It just serves pleasure. So, you look at the Bible, you look at, I was thinking about that there's some prophecy in the Bible where I think it's with Joshua or Israel. There's a king of Egypt, and he has a dream about like 7 empty silos and 7 full silos, or 7 full silos, 7 empty silos. And there's just this kind of this message, like, there's going to be hard times.
Yeah.
And there's going to be good times. And human nature is to take the good times and to think that we're always going to be able to spend infinitely. And then we don't have anything else when it's the hard times. And I kind of think that we need hard times to really find this, whatever that American can-do attitude. It's being corrupted by people who have nothing better to do than corrupt. 100%. That cancer can't survive on a healthy body, and our body just isn't healthy, and it needs, like going to workout, like it needs stress. So some amount of stress is necessary. I don't want collapse,
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that we need hardship in one
We
way or
do.
another. And this is not a national election thing. That stuff is all a pony show. It's all bread and
yeah.
circus.
Sure.
A bill needs to come due so we have something to pay off.
Right.
So that's what I think. For the kids' generation, for this kids' generation, they need some hard times.
They do. Well, so I said I've got a 17-year-old, and dude, it was. Let's see. When did he first come home and start talking about gender stuff? That would have been he was 11 or 12.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. He's coming home and talking about.
In your little tiny small town. Right?
Yeah. In our little tiny small town,
bro.
Yeah. So he's coming home talking about asking what pansexuality is, like all of this nonsense, this made up.
It's when
bullshit.
you put your dick on a pan.
Right.
And your wife comes along and beats it up with a meat cleaver.
Yeah, for real. So, and I'm just like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, I was telling Chase before we started, he hadn't heard about it. The dude in Canada that cut his fingers off or had his fingers surgically removed because they caused him intense mental anguish.
Yeah, you know what? Can I tell you another one that's happening in Canada? This guy sued Canada to have the national health care service pay for him to get installed a vagina and keep his penis. And the state is now going to pay for his vagina to be installed in his perineum or whatever.
Wow.
Because that's his identity.
Wow. Blame Canada. Man, South Park, they hit the nail on the head every time. South Park gets it right all the time. I thought of that when you were, referring to our two choices in the election. I go back to a giant douche and a turd sandwich.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, man. I mean, my little girl's 9.
Yeah.
And
keep her off social media.
Oh, my God.
Whatever you do. Send her outside, lock her out of the house 6 hours a day, no cell phones.
We're at a local restaurant here, just a little bar and grill here, and I've got her and her little friend with her, and I overhear them talking. Her little friend's like, "Yeah, up in Avery County, which is the county right next to us, and I heard that they have a litter box. That's cool because somebody wanted to be a cat or whatever." And my little girl loves the whole furry thing, not for any reason other than it's a cute.
Because she's a 9-year-old girl and she still sees it. Probably
Yes,
something
it's pink,
innocent.
it's blue, it's cute, it's an animal. I get it.
That's what makes it so insidious.
But yes, it
There's
is.
adults that are using that.
Yeah.
It's insane. And they're talking about this, and I finally get so I just let it kind of play out, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, let me tell you something. And I go light into this diatribe, which I'm really good at as a dad.
Yeah.
I diatribe about how you need to forget all this, forget the trans, forget the gay, forget all this stuff. You're 9 years old. You need to be a kid. You need to, and I go on, of course, for about 30 minutes. Get up, pay the check, get up, ready to leave. The table next to me is two kind of maybe mid-20s. And the guy puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, "That was the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life." He's like, "We have a 3-year-old, and I'm not looking forward to that." And I'm like, sometimes, man, you just gotta lay down. And his wife that's with him, she's texting her phone. She's like, "Ever since you started this, I've been texting my mom." She's like, "I've been live texting her your whole conversation."
Oh, dear God.
Amazing.
Wow.
But it's here. I mean, it's here just like it is everywhere. And that's part of being, what we've tried to highlight is the chickens are coming home to roost in small town America. I mean, that's really just
the weasels are in the coop.
Yeah, they are.
And that's the reason I think it's important to have voices like yours on a show like this that caters to this stuff, because this might not be things that a lot of people are familiar with. I think a lot of people around here just not really, they're ignorant of a lot of it.
They
and what's
are.
really going on, because we have been so insulated. It's very easy to isolate yourself here where we're from.
You have the low information voters feeding them this. Well, it's just about trans rights. No. It's far more insidious than that. It really is.
It's about freedom, bodily autonomy.
Yeah,
You
bodily
know?
autonomy.
You want your own guns. Your kid should be able to choose their genitals.
Sure.
You know?
Gender affirming care. It's couched up in these really nice terms. And no, it's exactly like you said. They're cutting their dicks off. They're cutting their tits off, and that is
And they're not doing
beyond.
it well.
No,
Like, they are
No.
not doing it well.
no.
This puberty blocker stuff, it doesn't stop puberty. It stops
No.
brain development. It
Right.
it retards you.
Yeah,
It
does.
cuts you off from orgasm,
Yep,
like for your life. Like that's what you're
Forever.
giving your kid.
forever.
So
Well,
it's not.
Not to mention that the surgical interventions do the same thing. I mean, you mutilate your genitals, you're never going to feel pleasure. Never.
Yeah, if you're a guy, you still get a stiffy, which is worse because it's a stiffy with
Yeah.
nowhere to go. So
Right.
it's like a stiffy in a cul-de-sac,
Oh my God.
right? It grows, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's like phantom limb syndrome.
Well, and
know. We
I
don't
know.
need to get into that on your like little little homespun podcast.
everybody here
you know?
knows I'm a dirtbag. It's fine. I don't care. And that's something I've been like from the get-go. I think this is our show is a free speech, like absolutist platform, with the exception of calls to violence. Like, just don't. But everything else, I think, is fair game. And if it gets taken down, then it gets taken down. But that's YouTube's fault, not me. But I'm certainly not going to take any editorial privileges with what my guests say, because I think.
Well, you're gonna cut out the part where we peed, though, right?
Yeah.
On
for
camera?
Sure. Yeah.
Where we had the pissing contest.
Well,
like,
I mean,
literally?
I hate that Chase's is bigger than mine, but
Hey, at least we still have our dicks, dude.
that's true.
At
That's
least at least we didn't grow up in this generation. We still got our good working.
God-given right.
Penis.
Yeah.
yes, dude. What a world! What a world!
Amazing.
Oh well, man. We've been going for an hour and a half now. We'll wrap it up. Benjamin, where can people find you?
Benjamin A. Boyce on YouTube and Conversations on podcast channels. That's just conversations, but it's Conversations. I do a lot of interviews with a lot of different people from all echelons of society. I do a lot of stuff with gender, but also I'm just interested in the ideas that the regime doesn't want to talk about. I really like talking about what you're not supposed to talk about and saying things you're not supposed to say. I mean, I don't want to say things just because you can't say them, but I'm really interested in why.
Right.
So I'm just always investigating, just like you guys, just like what's going on here, like, and how do we learn more? I want to be more informed. So I just really like meeting people, and so I try to have as human a show as possible.
Sure. Same, man. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
It's nice to meet you,
pleasure, too.
man. Absolutely.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. What
Keep
are you guys
up the-
drinking tonight? Like some sort of weird pink beverage?
Oh yeah, I got.
that shit's gonna
I'm
grow you
chilling
man
for prom,
tits, you
dude.
know?
I'm
Oh,
chilling for prom. I'm trying to
okay.
get a Jake Paul and Logan Paul sponsorship.
Oh yeah.
Really? Do
I'm
you guys have
drinking-
cage matches out there? Like, what do you do? Like really
Tough man
violent?
contest, dude.
Tough man? You
Yeah,
guys, like,
that's what we
drag
have.
a log through
Tough
something?
man.
You know, what's
It's the
weird
home of
Scottish-
professional wrestling and NASCAR, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, really? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yep, it is. I'm drinking just Powerade Zeros, man. Like I'm just keeping my electrolytes.
I think
That's
Powerade is our go-to show
that's what
beverage, though.
plants
Honestly.
crave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Hence the peeing in the middle of the show.
yeah, that's it, man. It's our weekly or twice a week chance to get good and hydrated. Yep.
Yeah, right. Diabetics with diuretics.
Man, DLM, okay? Just DLM.
Yeah, no, merch. I'm serious. I'm serious, you guys. Pink like profile pictures, little lawn signs, like don't tase me, give me an OJ, like something like that,
That is a great idea.
Sugar's down, don't shoot.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Ben, thank you so much, man. We'll do this again.
Cheers. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Anytime.
man. Thanks.
Hit me up.
All righty, we'll do
Have
it.
a good evening, man.